Welcome to the Indie Game Spotlight Stream June 2019 recap video. This is where we'll be kind of showing off some of the highlights of the games that were submitted by developers for that month's Spotlight stream. And if you'd like to submit a game for a future month, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me via email, Twitter, whatever, or do the sign-up sheet that goes up usually in the middle of each month. But for our first game that was submitted, this is Mannequin Madness, and unlike the other games that were submitted, this is an augmented reality game, and we certainly don't have the hookups or the ways to properly show that off here. So the developer just submitted some footage of the game in various YouTube videos for us to review. And not much here for me to really go by. Again, the fact that I'm not playing it kind of hurts it, but it does look like, again, a very interesting take on making use of AR. As I was saying on the stream, it doesn't really interest me that much, but I'm sure there are people out there who enjoy or have an interest in this kind of design. But other than that, there really isn't too much to say, unfortunately, again, by the fact that we can't play it. So let's move on to the next game, and if you are curious about each of the games that were submitted, I'll include links to where you can find them in the description down below. But for our next game, we have Legion of Scorn. This is, as you can see, a top-down arcade-based shooter. The whole design of the game is about surviving these various waves. There's a whole page of lore that was kind of very hard to read, and a lot of, my issues with this game definitely stem from the playability or UI. For instance, if I hit escape right now, go back to the main menu, it actually ends the entire play. The entire game itself, as you can see, is just about running around shooting these various robots. The sound effects weren't that bad, and the game features a variety of enemies, including boss fights. But as with a lot of these kinds of games, there isn't a whole lot to say. Once you've done one wave, you've kind of done them all. And it does kind of feel like developers are still trying to chase after that magic formula that Geometry Wars nailed so well many years ago in terms of trying to add more to this design or making it more interesting to play. During this footage, or during our play, pretty much the best strategy was circle strafing. And it got to the point, then we hit wave 30 of, I think it was 90 or 100, and we were all starting to get a little bit tired of the game. And this map or background doesn't change at all. I think it does feature maybe a few musical tracks, if I remember right. But otherwise, again, this is one of those games that you play the first minute of it, and that's pretty much the same for many, many hours. The only exception is that the game does unlock new power-ups as you get further into the waves. And we did start to see more challenging enemy types and wave loadouts as we got further into it. But other than that, not much else to say about this one. And yeah, if you enjoy a top-down shooter, then this one may be just another okay one to look at. Again, there are just so many of them out there. But with that, we move on to perhaps the most unique game of the evening, and that was Blink Rogues. While this may look like a top-down shoot-'em-up, we didn't get to, this is definitely not a shmup or Touhou level. What the game does differently is the fact that it's not only designed around a co-op or competitive play, but the fact that you have two screens of play going on at the same time. Your ship can not only turn itself around to attack enemies behind it, but it can kind of shift perspective going from the left screen to the right screen. When it does that, it can activate a unique power such as Moment of Invulnerability, and AoE Blast. That's that top icon you see in the middle of the screen. You have three types of attacks, the red, yellow, and purple icons right in the dead middle. And how it works is the enemies themselves either can be attacked by any weapon, or they have a shield. And the shield can only be destroyed by the corresponding color. So purple beats purple, and you get the picture. The game itself is designed around basically two forms of advanced play. You can go through missions and the game's story mode, and then there's also a competitive aspect where you and a fellow player will go against each other. And while you're both playing on the same map, you are competing for score, and you can invade each other's screens to either steal a high target ship or attack them and try to destroy them. When a character is destroyed, they lose some score and they remain, or they get taken off the screen for, I think it was about 5 seconds or so. Now, with that said, the game did hint at a little bit more in terms of customization. Now, while we were playing this game is on early access, and we did not have the ability to play this online competitively. It does come with a player versus AI mode, but the AI wasn't all that interesting. And with that said, Bling Rogues is a hard game to kind of talk about. The unique factor is definitely there, but it's kind of missing in terms of the moment-to-moment gameplay. The backgrounds are very basic. There's not a whole lot that's going on while you're playing this game. And despite all the different gun types, powers, and shifting, it didn't really seem all that interesting, I'm afraid. And the game is also a little bit on the button-heavy side because of that, as you're going to be moving, shooting, switching between your weapons, having to turn your ship around, and I did get into some issues where I was hitting the wrong button from time to time, and that could just be having to get practice with the game. But I think the thing that's going to hurt this game is that the basic gameplay just doesn't seem all that interesting compared to other shoot 'em ups that we've played. Everything from stuff like Super Hydora, the as mentioned Two-Who or Bullet Hell style games. Now, with that said though, we were basically playing the early tutorial or early campaign missions. So there is a chance that things will get more exciting as the game goes on. But I'm curious to see what people thought of this game, or if they had a chance to play it for themselves. But with that said, we move on to what I think I'm going to consider my favorite game of the evening, and that was Shrine of the God Ape. This is a very quick 2D platformer that by the time you're watching this should either be out or on its way out. And the whole game is basically just a few set of levels involving moving, jumping, and shooting your way through environments. Each area has its own unique rules, and then it throws a different elements or different challenges based on that rule set. For what you're seeing right now, this is of Area 2, where the challenge is using these statues as either a way to get around or get them out of the way so they don't kill you while you're pushing these blocks and making space. It's kind of, I don't know if I would say this is a pure puzzle platformer, but it does have puzzle elements to it, on top of the fact that you're using your shotgun as your main motivator for solving these situations. But at the end of each area, you have a boss, and if the ape statues and title didn't clue you in, is some kind of ape. And the boss fights are very interesting, and they're always multi-stage, and require you to figure out how to hurt the ape, and then perform that without, of course, getting killed. And when you've dealt with the little ape, there's usually the big guy you have to fight next. And the game itself, I would say in terms of difficulty, is on the harder side. I would say it's medium hard in terms of a platformer. This is definitely not Super Meat Boy levels of craziness, but it does get a little bit tricky, and for those of you who watched the live play of it, I certainly died quite a bit while I was playing Shrine of the God Ape. But all of the games that we did look at for the evening, this one is, I would say, probably the shortest in terms of its content. Maybe, I don't know how long the augmented reality game would be, but for this one, it is only 3 areas. I think it's like 4 or 5 levels per area, and we actually beat the entire game during our spotlight of it. And I'm not going to show you all the footage because then that would kind of be spoiling the whole game. But what I really liked about this game is that it does, I think, what it had to do for these mechanics. Like, it didn't feel like there was any fluff or filler in terms of the gameplay here. Every level is its own unique thing, or unique beast, somewhat pun intended there. And the developer could have certainly came up with dozens, if not hundreds of levels to play, but would they be as interesting or as well thought out as these? Probably not. And The only real issue, again, is its length. If you're looking for like a 5-10 hour long game, you're not going to find it here. But if you're looking for something that's very short but very refined, I would say definitely give Shrine of the God Ape a good look. But with that said, we're going to do a quick shout out to our current Patreon supporters and sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk or we're going to show off our final game of the evening. And now a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom Patreon supporters and sponsors. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. For our final game, this was Cryptographer, and this one is definitely a puzzle platformer. The rules are, we need to make it to the exit portal on each level before we are crushed. As we move around, the floors and ceilings will move essentially opposite of us. So if I move from the right, the wall from the right will move into from the left. And as you can see, the whole point is that your movement is basically timed to how far you can go based on where the wall is coming in. And there are, from what I know, there are some little shortcuts or ways you can kind of move around as a kind of a speedrun tech, but ultimately you're going to have to figure out the correct way to play. Now, playing this on the stream, I did have some issues with kind of the controls. For one thing, I had a problem with trying to pick up the bomb or some of the items. Like, for some reason, the game was not giving me the right input for how to do it, and I kept switching between either the keyboard and mouse, or just the keyboard and a gamepad for this one. And I think the game could have done a better job with kind of the menuing for that, and maybe even just having better prompts on screen. Now, with that said, one thing that may throw some people off is that despite appearance, I would not consider this a casual game. It kind of violates one of those simple rules of a puzzle platformer by the fact that there's a lot of this game that is built on the platforming side. Some of the later levels introduce one character wide jumps and gaps you'll have to get across, and considering again that you're limited based on the walls closing in, there is very little measure for error in Cryptographer. Now, unlike Shrine of the God Ape that only had very few levels, this game has a whole lot. I think there was like 90 or 100 different puzzles in it, so you're definitely getting value here. But for myself, I found this to be a little bit more on the frustrating side compared to some of the other titles we played. And a lot of that, again, I think stems from kind of the difficulty of Cryptographer and the fact that I was kind of fighting a lot of the controls while trying to do this one. And it's kind of hard to see in the footage, but that bomb kind of operates on physics. And it was very hard sometimes to get in the spot that I wanted it to. But definitely another very interesting game, and if you're looking for something again of the puzzle platforming variety, but this time I think a lot more harder to play, then you should look into Cryptographer. But that was all the games for the June Spotlight stream. So thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to submit your own game for either this month or a future month Spotlight stream, please don't hesitate to get in touch, but come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.